I call this Town of Adams Board of Selectmen's meeting to order, Wednesday, February 5th, 2025. This meeting is being recorded. Based on Section 20C of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, as most recently extended by Section 40 of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, authorizes such participation even if remote participation was not listed on the agenda. We do have Vice Chair Christine Hoyt on the phone calling in. Hello, Christine.
Hello, Chairman Duvall.
All votes will be by roll call vote. Anyone wishing to film all or part of this meeting, please inform the chair. You can do that, but just inform the chair to add to our records. Hearing and seeing no one. Moving on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Could everyone please stand and join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes. I don't think we had minutes in here.
No, there's
No minutes, I don't recall any, so we'll move on from that. Next is public comment. Anyone who would like to speak to the Board of Selectmen on any subject are free to come up to the mic, state their name and their address, and we will listen. Who would like to be first? Yes?
Kathy Foster, I live in Adams. At the last meeting, I wanted to have a discussion, or for you to have a discussion about tuition reimbursement policy. You asked me to send you an email to put it on the agenda, and I did the next day, but I don't see it on the agenda.
Yeah, we need to wait for town council to put something together legally, so we should see it next meeting.
To put something what together? I was just hoping to see that you would have a discussion about it.
Well, usually we have a discussion, we'll have the first reading of a policy change. This would be a policy change.
So you're going to have the policy change done before you discuss it?
Or added, yeah, a policy presented by the legal counsel. We'll review it. If we want to change it, we'll change it, and then we can take action. But it's best that legal counsel provide the baseline for any policy change to ensure that it's, that it can be done legally.
Okay, I want to also talk about your rules for public comment. You sent me in the past a one-page PDF page about rules for select board members and rules for public comments. It doesn't align with the law. And KP Law, which represents this town, has put something out that they've made available through MMA, I think. And they talk about the Barron versus Kalenda case. And they say that they are available to give training on that, on public comments, because public comment is kind of a tricky situation. And I'd like to hear that you're open to doing that.
In regards to that, a citizen can ask any question they would like, is that what you're, well, or training, or I'm not sure what you're asking for.
You're censoring by content. You can't censor by content. That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, so this evening, any subject you want to talk about, anyone is free to talk about it.
Okay, but what's it going to be next time?
No, that's the way it's going to be.
So you've changed your position on
That's the way
that?
it is this evening, going forward, yes.
Okay.
Anything you would like to bring up, any topic, you are free to do so.
I don't know, you confused me because last week you were adamant that you're the boss. And it's whatever you say, and now you're saying it's different.
Whatever you would like to ask, you're free to ask.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else who would like to address the board? Yes.
Caroline Scully, 7 Country Club Avenue.
I don't know whether I'll be able to ask questions when we get to the part of the agenda for ratifying, I'm not sure what the term is, Donna Season. So should I ask the questions now? Because I don't know if I'll be allowed to ask them then.
Why don't you ask them now, and then we get to
Okay.
that point, maybe you can...
I'm just curious how many hours she'll be working, what she'll be getting paid, how much she'll be here, and why she's up for two different positions.
Okay, we'll address those.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else who would like to address the board? Okay, moving on to new business. The first item is discussion of the roles and duties of the Adams Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. I believe we have the Adams Housing Authority Chair. Go ahead.
I don't know where well, Kelly, I don't think she was going to be able to show up tonight, so,
Okay.
And since I brought it up the last time, I think she was going to have me just take the role.
Okay.
So at the last meeting during the public comment part, we had just mentioned we have our state appointee had resigned. The state has asked us to reach out and go every avenue we can to try to find people who might be willing to serve. For the state appointee is that if the state does not appoint someone within 120 days, it falls into the role of the Board of Selectmen to be able to choose that person with no input, obviously, from our Board of Commissioners or myself, which is the way it should be done. So I think they were asking what the roles and responsibilities are. I mean, I can go quickly what it is or how to proceed. You tell me. I can make it as quick as possible or as not as long as you really want it. So you can.
Just a brief description.
And then I'll give just a
Fine.
brief about, I don't think a lot of people realize what the Adams Housing Authority does. Can make that brief too. So the role of the Board of Commissioners is they have three major things that they're tied into. One is that they approve and they monitor our fiscal budget, which always starts on July 1st and goes to June 30th. They set policy. They work with myself as the executive director to set policy for staff, residents, for our procurement policy, our management policies. And third, which is always, I say it's the fun one, even for, we'll say town administrators, they hire and fire the executive director. Hopefully never fire, but we'll go with the hire part and renew my contract. Currently, we have 5 members we have 5 members on the board. 3 are elected at town meeting. 1 is appointed by the Board of Selectmen. That's the tenant rep. That has to be a person who lives in the Adams Housing Authority. And then the 1 is the state appointee. Again, if it under 120 days, they'll appoint. If not, it falls into the Board of Selectmen.
Not by town election.
Not by town election, no.
I mean, well, you mentioned
It's an elected position
3 members were elected by town meeting.
by town meeting, but during the May town election.
Okay.
One of them is Ann Bartlett, Kelly Rice, and Carol Roberts. You guys appointed my tenant board, James Suttle, last April, I want to say, at the end of April. And again, we're waiting for the third one. We're waiting for the 5th person. We know it's going to be a little bit of time, so we're able still to proceed. The Adams Housing Authority, we manage 82 public low-income housing, 64 units. 64 of them are at Columbia Street, right across from Walgreens. We have 20 units of family units scattered throughout Adams, a couple duplexes. Probably our biggest one is by the cannabis, the yellow block. That's right there. There's 6 units. And then we have an 8-unit that is labeled a 689, which is the Department of Development Services that we rent to Be Fair. That's on Elm Street. On the voucher size, currently we administer 73 housing choice vouchers. That was the Section 8 on the federal side. We have 10 vouchers that are mobile or what they call project-based. That is the state vouchers that they can be taken out. And then we also administer 14 vouchers strictly through the Department of Mental Health there. Those are all vouchers that are given to voucher holders that can go to any any person who is on the program, they can go throughout Berkshire County. And last, I'll just say that we are funded by the state EOHLC, which is the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, and also HUD on the federal side. Adams Housing Authority, obviously, as everyone aware, we pay a pilot tax, and we are also renting some space from you, so we are not funded by the town of Adams. And that's a little bit about my little housing authority, as I like to call it.
Okay, just one clarification. The appointment by the Board of Selectmen, how does that process work? Do we just put out the call, or do you come back and recommend individuals?
So what will happen is after 120 days, I'll come to the board and I'll request that, however you guys would like to go forward, that, to say that the state has, I know it's going to be a shock, pass the ball to you guys, and that that'll need to go out. That won't happen before May 13th. That's when the 120 days are. On the Town of Adams website and on our website, there is a notice on there that clearly states what you need to do if you decide within the 120 days if you want to apply to the state on mass.gov. There's instructions on there. Obviously, if anyone had any questions, they could call the Housing Authority. They could call myself at the Housing Authority. We can walk them through. For the second part of that, I would not, or my board would not recommend anyone. I think that just takes any chance of anyone thinking that I'm trying to, or the board's trying to stack the board, and we would give no recommendation whatsoever.
Okay.
And I think it just keeps it I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want to even give that appearance whatsoever, to stay away from that.
Okay. Joe?
Yeah, I have a few questions. You had mentioned the homes and duplexes we own, but there also are some homes, I think, that are dilapidated that are owned by the authority on North Summer Street.
One is, yep, so I can go over that. So currently I'm working with the state. That's 174 North Summer Street. It is a process. It's not one that we can just take down. I have to go through a request for proposal before to try to see if I can even sell it. It's a non-buildable lot. And then after that point, what I have to do is I have to try to sell it. I've been working with the state for probably a year and a half to 2 years to try to tear that down. So it's on my radar. But it's a lengthy process. It's not like if I can just, if I had $200,000 to say to be able to tear it down, I'm gonna have to request funding too, because, it is gonna cost. But that is the only property at this moment that would that would fit that description that you're talking about. We did have one on East Road on the corner, 220 East Road, and that was taken down, I've been there two and a half years ago.
Is that the one that was a possible site for humanity? Yeah.
Yep. And we're looking to sell that, to be honest with you. But that's another process too. So it's a little bit of a lengthy process, but it's on the radar. I do not want to be a landlord that gives that appearance. I have talked to the neighbors. They understand, they're not happy with it, but we are going to try and do something with it to get it down. So that is what my goal is.
And also, I'm not aware, are those units that you have taxable?
Are they taxable?
Yeah.
So we pay a pilot on our by law. We pay a tax. There's an equation on our family units and on our 689 property, which is the Department of Developmental Services on Elm Street. By law, I cannot pay a tax on anything which is called the 667, which is the elderly unit. So what it is half of the tax rate plus $100 times the number of bedrooms, which ends up coming to be a little under $6,000. However, we have made an agreement to rent a few parking spaces at the old Memorial Middle School, and we pay $5,000 a year for that to try to compensate what we can't pay for taxes.
Okay, and just a few other questions. How many applicants do you have waiting to get into the, I'm talking about Columbia Street?
Sure, so thousands. And it's not just Adams, so it's a centralized waiting list. one application, they call it the one application that fits all, which is the CHAMPS application. So someone from Boston is looking at the same, anyone that has state public housing uses the same application, it goes into a database. So someone who is in Boston could literally check every housing authority, and this happens, checks every one. They do give priorities. One is that if you're a veteran and you're an Adams resident, you will take a priority over someone who is from Boston. However, that could still floodgate people in Boston. So an example, we are about ready to rent an apartment in our family unit. I know you're talking about the elderly, but this is a good example. In our yellow block right next to the cannabis place. I have to send out 75 applications because the first 60 are people from Worcester to Cape Cod before the first Adams person comes up.
Yeah,
And I cannot override it. So I'm going to say, very, Mr. Novak, I'm saying is, let's say you're number 5 on the list and there's 4, and you're an Adams resident, and I know that you need housing and you're homeless and whatever it is, I cannot override those 5. I can't do it.
so now when you mentioned 1,000, was that for Adams?
No.
Okay, so that's,
It's thousand, I mean, it's everyone in the state who has clicked off on the town of, they might not come, and I have that a lot.
Okay.
They might not come, but they
so
have
there's
checked.
been 1,000 people clicking on the town of Adams for possible housing. And that just tells me with much clarity that we're very short on affordable housing. I mean, you could fill up that probably 10 times more if you had the units.
Now, I have gotten a few people, yeah, absolutely correct. What I have is I have 2 people who came from Cape Cod, 1 who came from New Hampshire. A lot of them have been within Berkshire County, but there is a huge need for affordable housing.
Is that something that I know it would be contingent on having property, but are there any monies out there for, like Augustus who oversees that? Are there monies for complexes?
There is, but you have to have the property, and we don't have the property. See, the problem is, you use 174 as the best, let's use 174. So we're gonna tear down that building, it's a non-buildable lot. There's nothing we can do with it, the land's gonna be locked at that point. 220 East Road is it's less than an acre.
Yeah.
So, contingent on funding, if you put 1 or 2, it's not gonna get you where you're at. Now, let's say I own the farm right next door, we'll just use that as the example. There is money out there to develop on there to provide housing. It's just, we don't have, being a small housing authority, we don't have that opportunity.
Okay, and not to prolong things, so if I wanted to get into there and, there's a long waiting line, how can a person find where they're ranked on?
So there is no number ranking. I would still tell you to apply because it's very misleading. So I'll use the example, I'll go back to that example again. So I'm going to run a list, let's say of 50 units. I have 1 opening, I'm going to at least get 50 applicants. 49 of them are from out of state, and let's say you're the 50th person. I'm telling you, don't be discouraged yet, because a lot of times people will check it off. So, we'll send something out, someone to Boston, and they'll say, okay, we have a place, and that's great. I said, now you do realize that you're 3 hours away. They're like, 3 hours? I'm not gonna come all the way there. My doctors are here, whatever it is. But they checked it off, so we legally have to send them a packet to be able to send them. So there's really not a number. I still encourage everyone from Adams to apply, because you are gonna bump some of them because you're a local, you have that local preference, and then if you're a local and a veteran, it's gonna push you up, it's gonna push you up from there.
Okay, and a few other things. I know it's economic parameters, whether you can get a housing unit there.
Yep.
But what other things disqualify you? Did the state set the rules, the laws?
Yep.
Suppose, what would be a disqualifier for someone coming in that wanted a place, but they've had things that they did that would disqualify them?
You're a sex offender.
Yeah.
Registered sex offender. You have a major drug offense, and that's still, now, that doesn't mean 10, 15 years ago, you were.
3 years, right?
Yeah, it's within 3 to 5, and there's some justification. They're really, the state's pushing to, the state is really pushing for second chances. So someone could win that appeal if we decide to deny them. The state does set the law, it does set the rules on that. There really isn't a lot. You have to admit, it's 30% of your income. There's a guideline of what it's supposed to be. If you meet the guideline, you can pass the quarry. Even having a bad landlord reference is no longer going to be there too, because we're one of those last stops. But it does put you on the radar for someone like myself if something does come back that we're going to watch to make sure. But it's really what automatically disqualifies you is being a registered sex offender, level 2 and 3, and if you've been convicted of cooking crystal meth is there too. Those are automatic disqualifications.
And if you're still a user, I believe, right?
No, you have to be convicted of something. So I'm going to just use that really quickly. So again, Mr. Novak, I know you don't use drugs, so please don't take this offensive. So I know you're a drug user, but you've never been convicted before. I can't disqualify you for that.
Okay, and just, you can give some short answers for these, but what is reasonable accommodations mean?
Reasonable accommodation is, so if you have an apartment or there's something that is not typical, so reasonable accommodation is, let's say you could not do stairs, and I only have an apartments for stairs, the next one without stairs, they could put in a reasonable accommodation from a doctor that would allow them to come in. To say that the next vacant, if there's no one on the list that has other reasonable accommodation before them, that they would be able to either transfer into an apartment or the next available with no stairs to be able to come in. Service animal, grab bars, those are a corner a corner unit for whatever. If there's a specific reason, that's what a reasonable accommodation would be.
Okay, and the last question is, if a single lady or one lady rents a unit or a man rents a unit, are they allowed to bring their girlfriend or boyfriend in as
So by law, you're only allowed for 21 days over a 365-day period. So I'll use you again as an example, Mr. Novak. I know you wouldn't do that. Let's say you were living in my development and I knew that you had someone living there. I would, at that point, you would have to put that person on the lease, because we want to make sure that the person can legally be there, but we're also going to count their income with it too. If not, then you fall into that you're violating your lease, and yes, I will take you to court, and yes, I will evict you.
Okay, thank you, you're well schooled.
I try my best.
Yeah.
Christine, do you have any questions?
No, I think I'm all set. I see the information on the town's website with a deadline of May 13th to apply to serve on the board or commission. I was a little confused by the state's website with the information about the Adams Housing Authority, because it looks like we haven't had a governor's appointment since, I don't know, for a long time. It looks like the last person was 2016. So I guess I was just wondering how the vacancy came about, or if the state website is incorrect. If Mr. Schrade can maybe clarify that for me.
Sure. So what had happened, so we've had a state appointee up until at the end of December. It was Lena Zarnicki, I would think. She was our state appointee. She's actually, I believe, longer than 2016. It's going to be before my time. She had resigned just due to time commitments. So she has been on the board. So this vacancy has been less than a little over 30 days only.
Okay, anything else? Okay,
Nope, that's it. Thanks.
all right, thank you, Bill.
Thank you. And the last, I'll just say, and then I'm a guy, because I got a lot going on. You guys are always welcome. We'd always love if you ever have the opportunity to come stop in, just see our place. I think, we take pride in what we do, and, we want them filled, and we want to make sure we have great people in our apartments, which we do, in our units, which we do. And you guys are always happy to come by.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, under new business, item B, review and approve common vic license application for Adams Pie Incorporated, doing business as Domino's Pizza, 80 Summer Street, Adams, Mass. And in our packets, we do have a letter to the board. This letter is to advise the Board of Selectmen that the following license applications have been received, reviewed, and deemed to be complete, including necessary attachments and payment. And again, for the common vic license application for Adams Pie Incorporated, doing business as Domino's Pizza, 80 Summer Street in Adams. What is the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve the common victicular license application for Adams Pie Incorporated, doing business as Domino's Pizza on 80 Summer Street in Adams.
Okay, it's a motion by Joe. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Christine. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote. Joe?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
John, yes. All right. Item C, health insurance rate update for fiscal year '26.
Hello, everyone. I'm hopefully going to just give you a brief idea of what happened at the meeting on January 27th with the Berkshire Health Group. They gave us the proposed us 5 different increases. They started at 10, went up to 16. It was a 7-3 vote of going up 16% for the FY26 year. Just to give you a little bit of background story, because I don't think a lot of people understand like what the Berkshire Health Group is. We've been part of it for over 40 years. We're one of the founding members, so we've been with them since they've started. There are 11 voting members and 20 other small communities and members. And also when I say that we have a 16% as the town of Adams, that's also including that the Hoosick Valley Regional School District, Northern Berkshire Vocational Regional School District will also be getting that 16% increase.
Could you just state your name and your...
Oh, sorry, Ashley Sacco, Finance Director.
Okay, thank you. So the 16% increase, this is really to inform the board and the public prior to going into budget sessions for fiscal year '26 that this is a major increase to the town, and also the other impacts will be to our, as you have mentioned, the regional school district, Hoosick Valley, and the McCann School.
Yes.
So it's really provide information. Since Joe and I have been on the board, if you go back, you provided a rate increase history, the highest that it's ever been for the last 12 years or so has been 15%.
Correct.
And this year it's going to be 1% higher than that, so that's 16%. It's the highest we've had in a very long time. And the chart you provided, some years were 0%, and some were in the middle, and then we have the 16%. Do you have what the current budget is? What do we have in this current budget, what the current amount is?
I don't have the current amount, but the difference will be approximately about $60,000 increase
Okay.
from
and
the
that's
previous year, yes.
from the previous year, and that can change?
Yes, that can change depending on if any employees make any changes to their plans, if someone decides to say, I don't want to be on it, or if somebody has to come on the insurance.
Okay, so just if everything remained the same, which it won't, right, because things change, like, that's a 60,000 negative, it's a negative impact
It'd
to
be
the
an increase, yes,
increase. Okay, and that's just accounts for the town itself.
correct.
Okay, so that's information for the board, finance committee, moving into our budget sessions. Okay, Joe, you got any questions?
Yes, as soon as I saw this increase, I emailed about it, and
You'll need to unlock your iPhone first.
I just think that it's time that this town goes on a spending decrease in all facets of our town. And I don't know if there is anything to do with suggestions now, but what is the thinking that we're going to do to offset this? Are we going to ask a different split for our employees? Because health insurance is something that's a real big benefit for anybody that has it, that is a municipal employee. And being a state employee, I'm on Medicare, but I was astute enough to have money taken out of my pension for my insurance, like a supplemental. And I just think that we're spending way more money than we should be in this community. And I think we've got to tighten our belt somehow and cut back on spending. I'm thinking just in a very near future, I'm going to guess that our salt budget's going to be over, and that we're going to have to come back here and ask for more money for salt. How are we on that budget? And I'm getting a little off the topic,
And you
but
are,
it's just, yeah,
we can't-
okay.
Yeah, you gotta, and the reason I always make sure everybody understands that we need to stick to the agenda item itself.
Okay.
Or it's an open meeting violation, that's all.
Okay, yeah, well, all right, I'll just stop there, and I'm very worried about our finances in this community. Very worried. The taxpayer cannot take any more. They just can't. So,
So,
yeah,
just
and that's
add,
where I
I'll just
stand.
add that our budget sessions will be coming up during the month of March, I would imagine. We'll start getting ready to go through the budget sessions, and then it goes to the finance committee and so on, that process, so we'll be able to discuss all that in
Yeah.
detail
Yes.
at that time.
Fair enough, thank you.
Christine, do you have any questions?
No questions except for, 16% increase is a lot to absorb in 1 year. Berkshire Health Group isn't alone in seeing double-digit increases on the health insurance. We're seeing it across the state with several of those same groups, similar to like a Berkshire Health Group. So it's hard to plan for these things. It's disappointing, but there are a lot of, as much as I've been reading, there are a lot of reasons as to why we're seeing those double-digit increases across the board. But I'm sure we'll talk more about that as we get into the budget workshops. But I appreciate the information and the presentation. Thanks, Ashley.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next, item D, acknowledge receipt of and discuss response to open meeting law complaint from Kathy Foster, dated January 15, 2025, and received by the town on January 22nd, 2025, against the Board of Selectmen in regards to a board meeting conducted on January 15th. The requests are to nullify the action taken during executive session, release minutes from the improper executive session, and release this lien during an open meeting. What is the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion to acknowledge receipt of the open meeting law complaint from Ms. Kathy Foster dated January 15, 2025, and received by the town on January 22nd, 2025, and have town council respond on behalf of the Board of Selectmen.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
I'm abstaining. I believe that was an executive session that I chose not to attend.
Okay, you're abstaining, so I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? All in favor, this is a roll call vote. Joe?
I'm abstaining.
Christine?
Yes.
John? Yes. Motion passes.
So may I just ask a quick question about this now? We just voted, and so it's going to go to a KP law?
That's what all these do, yes.
Yep.
Yep.
And that's another thing that I'm really worried about. I mean, since we have KP law, I know you're saying it's on a retainer and stuff, but every time I turn around, we're using KP law. I mean, they'll only get on a retainer for a certain amount of time, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I just think that, I don't know, I'd like to see how much money our retainer is and how much we've spent so far, and we're early in the season.
Yeah, that's a good, well, I think many of us have that question, and we can get that for the budget.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, did we, yeah, we approved that, correct? Okay. All right, next, item E, review and approve intermunicipal agreement with the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission. All right, Ken?
Yeah, the town received a grant from the state the Mass Office of Disability for $45,000, specifically for the purpose of carrying out a review and transition plan of our accessibility. Now, the reason for doing this really starts with the federal government and Department of Justice, because Americans with disability have a right to access all public facilities. So the Regional Planning Commission has particular expertise in doing these plans, and they have presented us with a contract for up to $45,000 to carry out the transition plan.
Could you go into a little more detail about this plan?
Sure.
Okay, so go ahead, if you got more information.
Yes, there is a scope of services attached to your contract, and I'm looking at that, and there's 3 parts to it. The first task is to attend some meetings with us. We may have an advisory committee to talk. You need some experts on this committee, like our facilities director, building commissioner. We may need the highway superintendent. People who know roads and buildings to point out various facets of those buildings. So they're going to attend a couple of meetings with us, and really the heart of this is a site assessment. They'll come to the town hall, they'll look at it, they may say, you need more handicap parking spaces, you need to improve the railing, you need a ramp. They'll go in the parks and say, oh, you need accessible picnic tables, or an accessible walkway. So that's the heart of the plan, and then they lay out the plan in writing, and it's called the transition plan, because some things can be done rapidly, pretty simple. Some things take a longer period of time. It almost augments our capital facilities plan, because we know what we're going to have to do in the future to make our facilities accessible. So again, they'll meet with us, we'll assign some people who have expertise to help them out. They'll do an in-depth site review, and then they'll give us a report. They'll present the report
And
there,
this
I
is,
believe.
and
Yeah.
this is for handicap accessibility,
Handicapped accessibility.
based on federal law.
Based on, yes, it comes right out of the Department of Justice. I have on my desk a binder that thick full of all these standards that the BRPC staff will have to go through when they're assessing the facility.
And why do we need to have this assessment?
Because if we don't, and someone files a complaint, we could be forced to do it. We might end up with a consent decree from the U.S. Department of Justice to do this stuff. So it's better to do this in advance, and they've been cooperating with communities to get this done. And the state funds these plans.
Oh, okay, the state funds these
The
plans.
state is funding the plan. Mass Office of Disability has already given the town a grant. It was signed early in December by a former town administrator. And all you have to do under the section of Massachusetts law that governs intermunicipal agreements. Let me explain that a little bit. There's 3 ways we can get things done. We can do it ourselves, we can contract it out to a private vendor, or we can have another municipality with the expertise to do it for us. BRPC, for the purpose of its organization, is considered a municipality, and they have a particular expertise, they're planners, in doing these types of plans.
Okay, Joe, any questions?
Yeah, I have a question or two. So I was happy to hear that we have money in hand, because I don't know what's happening in this country at the federal level, and it certainly seems to me that everything is just onerous. I mean, I don't think even people running this country know what's going on at this present time. So I worry greatly about federal funding, and I don't know myself how much Berkshire Regional Planning depends on the federal government for, what they hope to do for the communities, the good work that they do for the communities, how they'll be sitting in the future. And I don't know, and it just makes me wonder, what the future is going to be. And until there's some clarity, it's like our federal government's testing the water on everything. And as you can see, they're going after federal employees. So in short, the new administration is not fond of federal government. They want to take over federal government, in other words. So that's something that I worry a lot about. And So, as far as the Northern Berkshire Regional Planning, we pay them to help us out. Is that correct, John?
All 32 communities do pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, based on the population.
So when did we sign a contract with Berkshire Regional Planning? When does it, when we signed, and how much did we have to pay for their services for the time?
I'm not sure of the original contract, but it's based yearly on the amount of individuals in the community, and it's based on a 1 through 5% increase, I think, and there's a finance subcommittee that reviews the request by the executive director, like we would here, and they make the recommendation to the full Berkshire Regional Planning Commission.
Yeah, but that's not what I asked. How much are we paying now?
I don't know, do you know how much we have? Yeah, I'm not sure, it's, yeah, 5,000, but I'm not sure.
Okay, because in order for the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission to stay not solvent, they're going to be there because they help out. They're going to have to ask communities, I think, in the future to put more money in the pot, because they're going to be wondering, just like everybody else, about federal funding. And until there's some clarity, and I don't think there's even an attempt right now to make clarity, they want to make everything cloudy and test the parameters to see what the courts will say. And so it's going to be difficult sledding for quite some time with the federal government.
Yeah, Joe, the executive director, Tom Matusco, has been struggling with the federal grants that the BPRC does receive, so he's struggling through all that, very concerned.
Okay, thank you.
Christine, do you have any comments, questions?
No, I think I'm okay. It's well, I guess just some clarification, my apologies. The $45,000, Ken, you said is a grant. Which grant was that we received that will be paying the $45,000?
Yeah, it's from the state through the
Yeah.
Executive Office of Administration and Finance, the Division of Mass Office of Disabilities. They've
Okay.
they have given the town the money, and it's under contract, so we have that money from the state.
We have the money from the state, and then we have to partner with somebody who can do this work, and BRPC is not.
Again, we could do it ourselves, we could contract it out to a private vendor, or we could hire another government who has the expertise to do it, which is why I recommend doing it through BRPC. I should say parenthetically, Mr. Chairman, to the board, that another reason we want to do this, not just because we don't want to get slapped on the wrist by the DOJ, is that it makes us eligible for grant money to carry out some of these things through both the state and the federal government. CDBG in particular sets money aside to do handicap accessibility projects.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay.
All set?
All right, so we will need a motion to approve this plan.
I will make a motion to approve the intermunicipal agreement with Berkshire Regional Planning Commission to conduct the ADA study.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Joe. Any further discussion? This is a roll call vote. Joe?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
John, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, next, we have item F, ratification of Donna Season as temporary Assistant Community Development Director. Ken?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take F and G are related. I'd like to talk about them together, if you don't mind. As you know, and maybe the general public doesn't know, our Community Development Director, Ian Coughlin, left at the end of the first week in January. I believe it was January 10th. Now, I was very concerned because not only he decided to leave, but Kobe Targic, project manager, decided to leave. So they left a big hole in our community development operation without the manpower to carry it out. And as you know, I mean, I do have a background in community development, but I am limited as a retiree to working no more than half-time. So there was no way that I could take on 2 full-time jobs half-time. Donna Season happened to be, she is so concerned about Greylock Glen, she happens to be up in our office on a voluntary basis doing work. I called her in when Eamon was leaving, and I said, would you help us out? And so I appointed her temporary acting assistant director of community development because she was overlapping Eamon on the way out. So basically, there was a handoff. And following that, I asked her if she would stay on as the interim community development director while we advertised and searched for a replacement, which she agreed to. Now, this was the first meeting that I was able to bring the ratification before you, and it actually ends up being 3 parts, and there's 3 suggested motions here because she served for a week as temporary assistant director, assisting Eamon, taking the handoff, getting updates on all the projects before he left. She is now serving as the interim director of community development until we hire a permanent community development director or until the end of May. Then her term would expire unless the board extended her term. Now, once we hire a new community development director, she's going to need to be there because she's going to need to hand it off to someone who has very little background in what is going on in this community. And I can tell you, just in my short time here, this small town has lots of very complex projects going on. In fact, I spent part of the afternoon discussing the Armory Block project. So we want her on at least another month so she can, you've got the Greylock Glen, which is complicated in itself. Worked on the Armory project, 5 to 7 Hoosick Street, the Memorial School, and there are other public infrastructure projects that need to be done. And she really is the only one with the expertise to make sure that they move forward. So there are 3 suggested motions here tonight. One is to ratify her appointment as temporary assistant community development director for the period of January 6th through January 10th. That's the week she overlapped with Eamon. The second is to approve her appointment as interim community development director from January 13th until May 31st, or until we hire a new community development director, whichever occurs sooner. And the third is to allow her to stay on an additional month to assist the new community development director, again, as the temporary assistant community development director. Now, in her roles as temporary assistant director, she's going to be paid a salary of $1,000 a week, and it's a salaried position without benefits, salary position for half-time for the first week and for the second period where she acts as a temporary assistant community development director. When she assumes the higher level position of interim community development director, she will be paid $1,200 a week. And again, that's for half-time, it's without benefits.
So Ken, you mentioned to me that these agreements were, you worked with legal counsel on these?
I drafted, we can't really have a contract under state law, but we can make an offer. And so I drafted an what's so-called offer letter. It looks like the board has copies of the appointment memoranda I sent to you, and they look just like that, except that she has to sign off on them. And they're in front of her now, and we've given her, I think, a week to sign off on them. But I had extensive talks with Donna. So I'm fairly certain she's going to sign on them if you ratify her appointments.
Okay, so these are not contracts, these are...
Just as simply an offer of employment, temporary employment. Looks very much like the appointment letters that you have in here, the ratification requests, and she has to sign them.
Okay. Joe, we'll start with you. Questions?
I don't know, I haven't had much time to think about it, but what came originally out was Greylock Glen, and I'm just kind of wondering, I've read in the paper that that Selectmen, and I never knew about it, are talking about, the commission, and I didn't know the Selectmen were talking about it. And the Greylock Glen, I'd really like to see financially, since it opened, and officially, how much money we've paid out for keeping it running and how much income we've gained during that period. And I'm willing to bet there's a big deficit. And, you know, I asked Mike Wynn how much we're paying for insurance on the building and the water tower, and I didn't get an answer. And
Did you want to have that as an agenda item, Joe? Because that's really, tonight's-
something out of the ordinary, yeah, okay, well, the Graylock Glen was brought up, okay, we'll have it on an agenda item.
Sure.
I like Donna, I think Donna can do a good job, and, you know, I've known Donna for a long time, to me, she strikes me as an honest person, but I don't like people that are doing stuff away and not at the desk. Not to say she will shortchange us, because she surely won't, but that kind of stuff bothers me. And am I correct that you had a first round of people coming in, but they didn't fit the bill?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so,
And we're re-advertising.
yeah, so you're re-advertising.
Yes.
You tried in-house and,
We're gonna reach out for a broader audience, go in more publications. For instance, we didn't advertise in the Mass Municipal Association letter. We tried to keep the costs down.
yeah, right.
So we
Which is
didn't
a
go
good
there, we
idea.
didn't go to the International City Management Association or
Yeah.
the National Community Development Association. So we're gonna hit some of those, but we gotta make sure we have the money first.
Yep. Well, you know, I'll go for having Donna, but I think that, you know, her bailiwick has always been a Graylock Glen, and that's her baby. You know, she's been doing it for a long time, but as you mentioned, Mr. Walter, there's a lot of other things going on in this community that needs attention. And I'm hoping that shared attention will be given to some of the projects that you mentioned and others, because I'm still wondering, whatever happened to the dog park? It never opened. It was $50,000 over budget, and we had to take reserve money or whatever money it came from, and it's still not open. And, you know, when you plan something, you got to plan it properly. And I'm not saying there was any, you know, things difficult, because I know things change, but, you know, my hope is that when we get a planner, it's somebody that doesn't know the town good, because I think that person will have a learning curve, but I think he'll see things that people so familiar with the town don't see. But as far as Donna, that's the subject we're talking about. I'm happy to have her on board, because I respect Donna, and when she was the planner by herself in this community for many years, she was like the $1 million person. She got more money than, you know, the lot combined that I believe we have now. So she knows her business, she knows the players, and when it comes for grant funding, you have to know the players. So I don't know what we go from there. I heard we have to make some motions, and I'm sure maybe Christine has some things to say, but Donna's a good person, and I trust her judgment.
just to add, the dog park is pretty much finished. We'll have it, it'll be on a future agenda item in the spring, so we can have that open. Christine, questions?
No, just, Ken, thanks for acting quickly. As you mentioned, our community does have a lot going on for our size. And to emphasize that point, all of our departments are important, so don't get me wrong when I say this, but when we went through the budget workshops, I think it was last year, the community development department was responsible for over $20 million in grants. That $20 million is more than the town's overall budget. So it is a department that is handling a lot of different grants, a lot of different projects, a lot of different priorities, and to have such turnover in that department is really really hard for the community to move forward. So I'm grateful for you stepping in and and asking Donna if she would come back for, I think, the 20th time. I made up that last number. But I'm also grateful that Donna said yes, and will be able to make the time to spend about 20 hours a week with us to keep us moving forward. So thank you for all of that.
Were your questions answered? I know you had some. If you come up to the podium, thank you.
I think I asked Caroline Scully, 7 Country Club Avenue, if Donna would be here or if she'd be working remotely, or I intended to ask that. So I'm not clear about that from the material or from what's been.
She will be working primarily remotely, especially in the month of February when she's away.
Okay,
But she does come up to the office here.
okay, thank
So
you.
it's really both. Okay, Christine, do you want to read those motions, get those on the floor, please?
Sure. So the first motion I will make is I move that the appointment of Donna E. Season as temporary assistant community development director be ratified from January 6th, 2025 through January 10th, 2025.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Joe. For any further discussion? Hearing none, this will be a roll call vote. Joe?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
John, yes. Motion approved.
I also move that the appointment of Donna E. Season as interim community development director be ratified from January 13th, 2025 until the appointment and ratification of a new full-time community development director, or through May 31st, 2025, whichever occurs first, unless that date is extended by the town in its sole discretion.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
Second?
Second by Joe. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Joe?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
John, yes. Motion passed.
Further, I move that the appointment of Donna E. Season as temporary assistant community development director be ratified for a period of 1 month commencing upon the appointment and ratification of the new full-time community development director.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Joe. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote. Joe?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
John, yes. Motion carries. All right, the last item on the new business is update on projected Chapter 90 funding for fiscal year '26. This was also in the news last week or two. Ken, do you want to give us just a high
Yes,
level?
and I know that Christine is up on this as well, and I thank her for the information she sent us for the meeting this evening. There was a special statewide committee that advised the governor on increasing Chapter 90 funding, and I think it's more than a dozen years it hasn't been changed since 2012. The funding has been about $200 million. The proposal on the floor is to go to $300 million and to change the allocation, which was based on road mileage, population, and employment. So to benefit rural communities, the additional $100 million to go into $300 million a year will be done strictly on the basis of road miles, and that benefits the smaller communities, particularly out here that have lots of road miles, but not a lot of people in employment. That represents a 50% increase. Further, the committee, it was advising the governor, recommended that this be a multi-year appropriation. Typically, it's been done year to year. And so they're looking at a 5-year appropriation, and I think what you'd like to hear is what Adams is going to get. So in the coming fiscal year, if the bill passes, the bond bill passes, the town will get $470,000. Now, that's a 50% increase over the prior number. This year, we got $284,900. So we will be getting $427,400 if the bond bill passes, and we'll get that for 5 years. So that means that we can plan ahead for our capital improvements, and the state is going to encourage communities across the state, of course, to do a capital improvement program for its facilities. That's an increase, by the way, of $142,000. And further, there are some maintenance items that weren't eligible, like catch basin cleaning and cleaning over guardrails and things like that. Maintenance items will be also approved if the bill passes.
Okay, some good news for this upcoming budget. Joe, questions?
Yep, it certainly is good news. I think it's long coming. Will this money that we're getting through Chapter 90, will that have to pay for engineering?
It can pay for engineering,
It can pay for engineering.
as far as I remember.
And
I'm going back to
Yeah,
the past,
that's
Joe, but
okay.
as far as I remember, you can do
it
it.
sounds like a lot of money, but in today's, it doesn't go that far.
Far.
It doesn't go that far at all. And our infrastructure, our roads are terrible. I think we've got the worst roads in Berkshire County, and I'm going to say it. And because we haven't given much attention to them. And it's been a bad frost year, and already you can see potholes coming up, and the phones are going to be ringing off the hook. I hit a pothole, and it bent my rim, and this type of thing. But it is good news, and looking at the map, it was interesting with the percentages, like the rural town, but it seemed like they really concentrated in the Pioneer Valley. If you look up and down the map, I saw just one community, and I couldn't pinpoint it, that fell in the same category. It looked like it might have been, I don't know, maybe, I would guess, maybe Richmond, Hancock, somewhere out there. I didn't get a chance to view it close enough to see what community it is, but it's certainly good news, but money don't go far in that business. So kudos for the governor and the administration for giving out more money, and I'll have to say, when we use it, we better utilize it efficiently.
Okay, Christine, any questions or comments?
No, thank you for just walking through this. Again, it's in the bond bill. It's not, I think it has a little bit ways to go on this. But I appreciate the work of the committee that put together this recommendation to the governor, and I appreciate that she and her team listened to the committee about, helping out the rural communities. We hope that extra $100 million will go far for all of the rural communities.
Okay. Moving on to announcements, we did have a resignation of Tim Kitchell, an alternate member of the Adams Zoning Board of Appeals. The board is putting out the word that we need to have a replacement. So anyone interested in being an alternate member of the Adams Zoning Board of Appeals, please contact the town administrator's office, and the board will make a appointment as soon as we have some names.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment on the letter. I don't know Tim at all. I don't know who he is, but his letter, one thing stuck out to me. I don't believe that we're a town that is dying. I think we're far from that. I think we're teetering, but we're not dying. But the next sentence gave me pause. It says, we need to be more creative in caring for small businesses and our residents. And I concur wholeheartedly with that. I think that I've seen instances where if people don't like, on the boards that are overseeing this, if they don't like something, they push hard to knock it down. And it's kind of hurtful. I think that, I don't know, creative's the word, but I think we've got to be more sensitive to what people want to do and work with them, instead of saying, well, you got to have this done immediately, or you can't do it. And I think the communication needs to tend that way, where people who are trying to do something for the community and themselves should be looked at and should be able to go to these boards, and if there's things that need to be done, to give them some expertise in what they have to do and how they have to do it to accomplish what they need. And a small town, you get kind of, I don't know, if you don't like the person, and I've seen it happen, I've lived here my whole life, they'll make it hard. And I don't want to see that happen anymore. And I've seen it happen too much, and I don't like it.
Christine, you have any comment on Mr. Kitchell resigning?
No, I thank him for his service, and I hope somebody in the community is interested in serving on the ZBA.
Okay. Next on the announcements, we have town election information. Haley.
Haley Mesor, Town Clerk. I'm just here this evening to announce the 2025 annual town election calendar. Nomination papers became available on January 27th. The deadline for incumbents for town meeting members are due back in the office by March 10th at 5 p.m. And then deadline for all candidates to submit nomination papers is March 17th at 5 p.m. Both of those are Mondays. So again, town meeting incumbents is March 10th. It's a Monday at 5 p.m. And then deadline for all candidates to submit nomination papers is March 17th at 5 p.m. The annual town election will be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on May 5th, which is a Monday, and it will be held at the Adams Memorial Building at 30 Columbia Street. We have quite a few positions open this year. We have one moderator for a term of 1 year. We have 2 selectmen for a term of 3 years, 1 treasurer collector for a term of 3 years, 1 assessor for a term of 3 years, 1 Board of Health member for a term of 3 years, 2 library trustees for a term of 3 years, 1 planning board member for a term of 5 years, 1 cemetery commission member for a term of 3 years, 1 housing authority member for a term of 5 years, 1 redevelopment authority member for a term of 5 years, 1 Northern Berkshire Regional Vocational School Committee member, which is McCann's, for 3 years, and then 2 Hoosick Valley Regional School Committee members for Adams, 2 for a 3-year term. We have various town meeting openings. We always have 10 slots for each precinct, for all 5 precincts, and then we do have a few other openings for other slots, whether it be a 1-year or a 2-year within the precincts. So if anybody is at all interested in any of these positions and you want to learn more about them, please feel free to reach out to my office. You can give us a call, or you can stop in here at Town Hall in our normal business hours. I think that's about it. Again, the town election is Monday, May 5th, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Adams Memorial Building at 30 Columbia Street. And the deadline to submit all your nomination papers is due March 17th at 5 p.m. So Town Hall will be open until 5 p.m. on that day, and again on Monday, March 10th at 5 p.m. for any incumbent town meeting members waiting to get their card back to me. I would suggest, though, that you get your, if you're at all interested, to come in, get your nomination papers so that you can get it done and you can get it back and you're all set to be on the ballot. Does
Okay.
anybody have any questions? Seeing no questions, can we move on to the next item of
Yep, the
business,
next
which is
item.
town census?
Yes, please.
So I'll just continue to stand here. The annual town census is underway. I'm going to ask, we mailed them all out, I believe it was the second week in January. You should have all received it. I brought a little prop today. You should have received it. If you can fill it out, sign it. If there's no changes, just sign your name, mail it back, drop it off in the drop box out in front of Town Hall, or drop it off here at, in the office. There's a box out in the hallway too, if anybody wants to drop it off. It does make it very much easier for us to figure out if you're still living here, or even if you've moved. If there's changes, please fill it out and send it back. We really appreciate that. It just makes our life a little easier in the town clerk's office. But certainly, if anybody has any questions about the census, and we have fielded quite a few phone calls this year, feel free to give us a call, and we're more than happy to take your information over the phone, and you don't necessarily have to spend the money to put the stamp on it and then, or drop it off here at Town Hall. But again, you can drop it off in the drop box out in front of Town Hall, drop it off inside Town Hall, or mail it back. We really appreciate it if you do that for us. Any questions about the census?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
I really think this federal census is going to be really askew, and my reasoning is that there's a lot of fear-mongering going on, and people who aren't educated enough to know that, you know, because they have a Hispanic name or they're of a different color, they're not going to want to do this because they're thinking that ICE is going to be right at their door and doing it. And so this census will be a mockery throughout this whole country. And we've got a mini melting pot in this community. We certainly, you know, it's not the old community I grew up where I didn't see my first person of color till I was 10 years old. And so this census is going to really hurt federal funding, and I think they know it. And so a lot of people that just because they might have a green card, they might be worried about their birthright, which is, you know, they're trying to fight that. If you were born in the United States and your family came over, you're not an American citizen. They're fighting that way. So in short, I wouldn't really depend on this census this year as far as what's going to happen with it.
Well, I will say that my office works very hard and diligently with a lot of other offices within Town Hall
Right.
and beyond at the PD and other places too, to try to make sure that we have the most accurate
Yeah, I
information as
understand
possible
that.
for everybody.
You do a good job on it, but
I know.
people are going to be tepid.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank
That's
you.
it. Thanks.
All right, that's it. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
John, I'm sorry, can
Sure, go ahead.
Ms. Mesor actually just clarify the difference between the town census in which she is collecting information and the federal census that Mr. Novak just spoke of, so that there is no confusion that what the town is asking for is different than the federal census? If there could be some clarification, that would be great.
Sure, I'm more than happy to do that. So the federal census that was done during 2020, during the COVID time, that's when the federal Census Administration sends out all the cards and you have to send it in. That's for their numbers. This is done, our census that we're doing here in town and that every other town and city is doing across the state of Massachusetts is for our own annual town census and or a city census. So we are obligated by law to make sure that we collect all the information from our residents, and our number, you know, obviously will probably be a little bit different than the federal census.
Sure.
Than that, but ours is just so that we have an accurate count of all of our residents living in Adams.
Yes, to Christine's point, I understand that, but it's still going to be apropos, I believe, for towns. And throughout every town and city in the United States of America.
Yeah. But, and Ms. Meswar, it also indicates persons' voter registration and keep them active on the voters list so that they are able to vote in the town election that you just spoke of. Is that correct?
That is correct. It keeps you nice and active so that we don't have to worry about you when you come to vote and try to find you.
Okay, Christine, you good?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, thank you, Haley.
Thank you, Haley. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Joe, do we have a second?
Second,
Second by Christine, this is a roll call vote. Joe?
Yes.
Christine?
yes.
And John, yes. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.